want to welcome everybody today to the Stratum webinar. We are talking today at our Insight training today about Stratum security, basically concentrating on viewer security, essentially. Talk about some of the basics of setting up security roles, how they apply to user profiles, user profile groups, and feasibly, how you can limit what users can see and do in Viewer. So again, talking a little bit, well, again, my name's Adam Kurtz, and I've been with Silvon for many years now, and welcome. I'm very familiar with the product, and I will step you through today's session. We'll talk very quickly about the Stratum Data Hub, just kind of get a better understanding of our focus of the application and what it is. And then we'll delve into the security overview. We'll talk about those security roles. We'll talk about user profile groups, and then we'll show the concepts in a demo and take any questions. Sound like a plan? Here we go. All right, Stratum Data Hub, there it is, all in one picture. So what you're looking at is a picture of the application in more of a graphical format. As you can see in the middle, there's the pinwheel of all the different types of applications that are available within Stratum. Many of you are probably running the sales performance management, analyzing your sales data. Some of you are probably loading in financial data, perhaps manufacturing or inventory data, so you can see how you're meeting schedules and whether you're holding too much inventory or not enough. And if you're not going into those areas, those are certainly areas that are available for you to analyze and get a more holistic view of your enterprise. So, that's kind of the base of the Stratum application. It provides that data model so you can get these applications up and running very quickly. Around the pinwheel, as you can see, are the views of data that gain access to this application. And as you can see, also, there's a semantic layer, a Stratum semantic layer. And you scratch your head, what is that? Well, it's basically friendly metadata that allows users to gain access to the Stratum application and not see table names or field names, but rather see business terms that make sense to them as they build their reports. So that's what you have there in the middle, and it's in a wrapper so that users can get at it very easily. And in the upper right-hand corner are the Stratum Analytics, web-based analysis. That's what we're using today. We have our Stratum.Viewer interface, where you can also do some dashboarding. You can export data to Excel and all that good stuff. And don't forget that we have available the Stratum Analyst Hub and the Access Hub. So if you don't have access to those, you might want to look into it, because it's really cool in terms of what we're doing and helping Stratum users get data in and out of the application in a much easier fashion. So if you've missed some of those sessions, I've done a few of those sessions a couple weeks ago. So make sure you check those out on our website in our archive, and you can see some of the interesting things that we have available in the new versions. All right, so let's get on with today's topic, the security overview of the Stratum application. Yes, security is available in Stratum. So if you're not using security today, you can. I've been at several sites where some people use it and some people don't. And when I say they don't use it, typically, normally they don't set everybody up as a security admin, but they use security, but they just set it up for all access, which you can certainly do. And you might ask yourself, well, why do that? Why even set up a security profile? Because user profiles, just casual and advanced user profiles, and view administrators for that matter, they all require one. They have to have a security role assigned to them. The only folks that do not require a security role is the security admins, folks like you and me that maintain the application on the server and set up users and whatnot. So that's something that we do. And that's why we normally have admin access to the databases, so we don't need a security profile assigned to us. Okay. So what does the security thing do? Well, it limits what a user can access in Stratum. So if you don't want them seeing costs, guess what? Turn them off. You can hide them completely, and the user will not know they're there. So that you can actually go in, restrict users or groups of users for that matter on certain measures that you don't want them to see. You can do the same thing with dimensions. And so you can hide dimensions or give them partial access to some of the dimensions. Maybe they maybe you want to give them access to a territory, but just their territory, not everyone's. So they only see their numbers. Well, you can do that. Certainly, you can go in, create a role, assign it to either a group, or this sounds to me like it'd probably be more individual, and create that role as such so that they can, when they run their views, they only see their territory data. So that's certainly available, and I'll show you how you can set some of those scenarios up. So what's a role? Again, we kind of talked a little bit more about the role. That's definitely, it's a defined security function within Stratum. We talked about how it attaches to a user profile or a user profile group. There's a nice little graphic to the right there, as you can see, where you can assign a security role to a group of users or to individual users. So you might ask yourself, well, what's the difference? Why would I pursue one avenue over the other? Well, this is typical. What we see is where each user would require unique role security. For instance, maybe if you just want your users to see their territory ID or their sales rep ID. So normally a sales rep would only have one ID associated to them. So if you only want them to see the data that's attached to their sales rep ID, then you would have to set it up as assigned to each user profile. Option number 2. If you have a team of users, like for instance, maybe marketing, and they only want to see marketing related measures, but they don't necessarily need to be filtered by their territory or their sales rep ID. They don't have a sales rep ID. Well, in this case, then option 1 might be a good option. So you can group all those marketing folks together and just supply a security role to all of them and just show them marketing dimensions and marketing measures. So that's something that you can think about, but that's how I would see it being used. I do see it being used that way. I do see a lot of unique user security roles, which means that you'll have a lot of roles defined if you have a lot of users. But if you can accommodate a group of users with one security profile, do it. It's much more efficient and easier for you to maintain. Okay. And don't forget, you can also turn on read-write access at the measure level. So those of you who are using the write-back capable features, like the planning features, where you're allowing users to come in and update numbers, well, certainly that's done in the security role as well. So if you don't have write permissions enabled for certain measures and users, then they won't be able to update forecasting or plan numbers or whatever measures that you're trying to open up for write-back capability. So user profiles. Well, what's a user profile? Well, of course, it's a user-defined thing that allows people to get on the application. So obviously you have to set up each user with their name, their Windows user account, the domain that their user account belongs to. Those rudimentary fundamental things that need to be filled in. And then, of course, you can attach the security role to that particular user profile. So, and that's just another pull down menu that and I'll show you in a second what that looks like. So again, this particular situation, if we were to apply a security role directly to the user profile, then yeah, you're going to have individual security for each user if you do that for everybody. Conversely, you've got this concept of a user profile group and securing it by the group level. Well, first of all, what's a user profile group? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory, but this is a way to group your users together, right, into similar fashions, such as marketing, like my previous example, where you might want to group together a bunch of users that belong to the marketing department, and then that would allow you to go ahead and secure them as a group. So, in that case, then what I do see is a lot of user profile groups out there structured by department of the enterprise. Sales, finance, marketing, production, all these users typically are grouped together. So, and where it makes sense, you can then apply the security role to the actual user group. And, again, being more efficient, if you can do that for many of your users, I would strongly suggest that you pursue a model like that, which would allow you to maintain the roles a little bit more efficiently, as opposed to having literally hundreds or thousands of roles. Global security definitions are available if applicable. So, this is something that would give you that global security definition. So if you want to, make the profile or the security global to a team or a group of users, this would be a way to do that. So the user profile group also controls what view groups that these groups of users have access to. So it also controls view access and what they can see. So there's that's not necessarily security per se, but it is a way to lock down certain things, views essentially, and what they can see and what views they can actually use. So, that certainly is part and parcel of the user profile group. Simple concept, right? Nothing too crazy. If you keep things simple, normally they work very well. Those are some primary fundamentals of setting up the security role and role access, and how you would set up a user and your options of how you would set that, your landscape of users up in their security. Feel free to contact me. You can always reach out and send me an email. Don't forget to check out our website for some upcoming versions. We did just release a new version. 7.3 was just released a couple of weeks ago. So if you're interested in getting that upgraded, reach out and we can get you access to that and get you going on that. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at some of this stuff and see how some of the stuff would be set up. This is the new version. As you can see, the look and feel is quite different. Your users would still, they'll still feel very at home, because when you're at the bottom, at the end of the day, a view is still very much like a view. Here's that dashboarding where I'm able to group together views and create graphical images of the views and put them into my dashboard, and that came with version 7.2. So that's something that is available as well. So let's take a look at our admin utilities. Guess what? We don't have the admin utilities menu over on the left side any longer. So don't look there, it won't be there. It'll be over here in the hamburger menu, the new hamburger menu in the upper right-hand corner. All right, so I'm sealing away some of my thunder for my next session, but nevertheless, we have to go here to actually look at manage things. Under the manage things menu is the ability to set up your user profiles, your user profile groups, and your security roles. So I'm just jump right into the role menu, and as you can see, it lists out all the security roles in this menu. Kind of shows you a snapshot of how many users belong to this these security roles. So for instance, here I've got a grocery division role. I'm going to go ahead and double click on that, and it's going to open the role and take a look inside of the role and see how this is defined. So the role, as you can see, it consists of a couple of things. It's got a name. Normally you want to name it, give it a relevant name that makes sense. The server is typically, that's a pull down menu, so that's a no-brainer. And then the database, of course, is a pull down menu as well. So those are pretty easy to fill out. Once you have that filled out, then you'll be able to go in and go through these three tabs, essentially. So the first tab is how you would lock down your dimensions and the attributes within those dimensions. Your second tab over is the measures, giving them read or write access to the individual measures of the application. And then basically who belongs to this role. Is it a user profile or a user profile group? So you can define all that here and save it away, right? So if we look at our dimensions here, we can see that they pretty much have access to everything except for one dimension here. It says partial. So we can see that this is called a grocery division security role. So probably we're filtering them on the grocery division, I would imagine. So if we click on the ellipse, we can see indeed that the filter is on the grocery division. So that's one way of setting up your role security and limiting them to a partial access to a dimension would be to use the member list capability, or you can give them access to everything or nothing. When you say none, this means that if they do drill to that level, and you can hide the low level, by the way, and it's not done here, but it's done in the dimension menu. But yeah, I mean, they drill to this level and they will not be able to see data. So that's a guarantee, you know. Member list is the ability to go in and select, you know, in this case, we only have a few divisions here, right? To select which ones we want to secure them on. And then finally, and I'm seeing this used less and less, but you do have a concept of a user list. So you might create a user list and then secure them on that. If you don't know what a user list is, it's basically a list of divisions, in this case, that would comprise and that I can use to secure them. In this case, it doesn't make a lot of sense to make a list. There's only 2 entities at the division level, so making a list would that would be counterproductive. So I would stick with member list. And yes, you can do more than one. So in this case, if I want to secure them on another level, I can certainly do that. So I'm not prevented to secure on multiple levels. Okay, so right now I'm just securing on one. So that's your dimensions. It's really that simple. And then your measures is pretty simple, except you've got read and write, or I should say update access. So then you have this concept of turning on all of your, it looks like everything's turned on here, as you can see, but there is no write access for any of the measures. So none of that is turned on. So for instance, if I want to give write access to the budget, I can then go click inside the budget and I can see that indeed they have read access to all of the measures. But if I want to open up the budget amount working measure so that users could actually start updating numbers within that for that measure, I can then go ahead and trick that on and then save that role. And then users, if they run views that have planning enabled, they would actually be able to go in and change the numbers for that particular measure. So, you know, this is, I think, a pretty simple menu as well. You might see situations where you have a subset of things selected here. For instance, we see this quite a bit where you have costs might be hidden. So at some sites, they might be privately owned and they don't want you seeing any of their costs. So there might be a situation certainly where you have a subset of things selected here, right? And so you have the option of selecting which ones you want to give them out, you know, access to, essentially. So, you know, that's locking down the measures of data, you know, and again, the concept is read or write access or partial access is certainly available. And if you're not using any of these other ones, you know, you might want to just turn them all off. It might behoove you to just go ahead and just give them access to what you know is loaded in your application. And then if we go here to the right, the final tab over here, we can see that this is actually assigned to a test user. So this is an individual unique role that is assigned to an individual distinct user. But as we can see over here, we've got a couple of groups that aren't secured yet. And certainly I can secure the groups of users here as well. So that's something that I can go ahead and manage all of that right here within the role maintenance menu. Finally, I would save that so that I don't lose any of the updates that I did here. I can also do a save as here in case I want to create another one, maybe for the food division, and it would allow me to very quickly, you know, create that. Maybe I just need to change the food division measure, change some of the users, and I'm off and running. You know, so that's a good way of templatizing, if that's a word, of your security roles and creating new ones very quickly. Right. And then there's a help menu. So certainly if you ever need help, you can just click on that. It's contextual and we'll take you right into the role maintenance and help menu. So you can see that and follow along in terms of how to fill some of that out. If you ever have any questions about that, help is very quick and easy to get to. Okay. So that's the role. Again, coming back to the hamburger menu under manage things, we can then see the user profiles. I will continue without saving. Here's all my user profiles. There's that test user, and indeed that role is assigned. So I wouldn't expect anything different to see there. So as we can see, here's the user profile maintenance menu. I can see their name, their Windows user ID, their domain. Of course, you'd have their email address here and some other things. But down at the accessibility area, this is where you'll define that role. So for this particular user, again, like I said, this is individual security for this distinct user. And so this particular user also belongs to the user profile group called FCB demo group. So, this menu here allows you to manage the user and the role that they belong to and the user group that they belong to. Of course, many other things, but from the security perspective, this is where you would do that. Data copy authority is also set up here at the user profile level. So if you want to give your user data copy feature capabilities, you can turn that on here as well. So a lot of stuff here. The product has grown quite a bit. Back to the hamburger menu. I'm getting hungry saying that. We'll go into user profile group. And again, these are the groups of folks out there. And we see a group out here called SCB demo group. And there is no role. So all of these folks are either security admins or have individual security roles assigned to them. Okay, so the role is blanked out, it's grayed out here. We're not securing this group of users. Okay, I do have some roles here. A viewer administrator has a role assigned to it called all access. So these folks here can only come in, and they will not be able to see everything. Well, probably because they have a role assigned to them called all access. But nevertheless, as you can see, the concept here is to assign a role to a group of users as opposed to an individual user. And so again, if that fits your scenario, then certainly I would strongly suggest you do that. Another thing that you'll notice here in the user profile group maintenance menu is the view groups. So these groups of users have access to all of the views within these view groups. And it looks like almost everything. There are a few shut off. But yeah, I mean, any view that belongs to any of those view groups, these users will be able to see and gain access to. So that's kind of how the view security, accessibility comes into play here. Is terms, what views belong to the view groups, and are you giving the users access to their to these view groups so that they can see the views inside those view groups. Okay. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, how you would set up role security, how you would secure your application. And as you can see, it's not too difficult, but certainly takes some effort to think about, how you would structure this. So definitely don't want to throw this together willy-nilly. You want to give it some thought, put some structure to it. If you have any questions or need some help or some thought leadership, we're available. I'm available. Contact me. We can help you. Build it smarter, quicker, faster. We do have services available. So certainly if you want to hire us to help you do some things or some projects, we're available. So don't hesitate to contact us.